Welcome back to the Sportsball Podcast, your source for sports. I am your host, Andy, joined by my co-hosts, Nate and Zach there, bringing you a bye-week, quote-unquote bye-week, idle week episode for the Nebraska football team. But obviously, as our title and slogan says, we talk about more than just Nebraska football, even though there's going to be some sit-down talks we need to have with the team this bye week, and that we all need to look in the mirror. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that down later in the road here.
They better
start
listen
off
to us, because remember, we're the #1 sports podcast.
Yes.
Don't
And
fact
I know Coach Rule, every time he did his Monday, Thursday pressers, he's sending very subtle hints that he listens to our podcast. So just go back and watch his pressers. You'll pick up the pieces that he drops little keys in there that he listens to us. So if you don't,
I think it's
you don't
something
believe us,
I listen to fans.
It's like the emojis when he was first hired. That he's got his own secret code.
Yes, it's
subtle hints. Subtle hints.
Yes, if you want to go back and listen to him and believe, if you don't want to believe us, that's on you. We did our research. We know what he's doing, and he's obviously shouting us out without getting us paid yet. So, Coach Rule, if you want to give us that sponsorship too,
the #1 sports podcast on the internet has these inside connections. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah,
we know what's up. Again, don't fact check us.
Yes. And speaking of giving us money, we'll transition to baseball. The inflation now on that MLB purchase has now gone up to 14 million, or no, billion. We're a billion now. Yeah. So we're gonna really need all of your guys' support to help us get that coveted MLB team, or two, or maybe a third. At this rate, with how much we keep going up, we need more.
I've seen rumors that the White Sox might be going up for sale, and I feel like that's a cheap buy,
Yeah, I mean the Twins are up for sale. Yeah, the White Sox are up for sales. The Athletics now need a new central home somewhere, so why not just include them? That's three teams right there that need someone to purchase them, and we are taking that burden upon ourselves. So again, your appreciation to our Patreon and your donation, we will gladly take anything that you will give us. If you want to donate $1 billion at a time, our goal will get there super quick.
Maybe even two.
Maybe even two. Just find it in the goodness of your heart to give us.
We do appreciate the generosity.
Yes,
it'd be great. I would like to be able to eat. So if you guys could help out, that'd be fantastic.
Yes, we are literally not. We stopped all of our budgeting, all of our expenses to save this. To save for these MLB teams we need to buy. So the sooner you get us money, the sooner Zach can get food. And
we put a lot of.
I don't know what this eating thing is. It's been 3 weeks for me actually. So
we put a lot of faith. We put a lot of faith in this thing working out. So please help us.
Please.
I haven't checked the Patreon lately, but I assume that the funds are going up. So
yes,
we appreciate it.
Yes.
Right. Thank goodness that Patreon exists.
Yes, it does. Definitely in the link that Zach will provide once he pushes the podcast out. It will be there.
You kidding me? No one reads the descriptions of these things.
Whoa. Some people do. I do.
You're on it. Why do you need to read
it? I just want to know who's on the podcast this week.
Yeah,
there is this part of me now that, like, when the episode comes out, Andy's like, "Oh, so this is what they're going to talk about. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what they talk about this week." As if you don't know.
Hey, man, sometimes I forget in 24 hours.
Yeah, that's fair.
Been there.
With that, last time we had talked about baseball, Dodgers were up 2-0, and they did eventually cap off the World Series in Game 5 at Yankee Stadium. And again, if we had to pick the lesser of two evils, I think we all would have picked the Dodgers, to much chagrin. But as a Yankee hater, I enjoyed every single stat shot of a Yankee fan and Yankee player that they showed as the Dodgers were storming their stadium, winning the World Series. So congrats to the Dodgers for finding the biggest loophole in the MLB tax luxury ceiling and deferring all of their payments to the world's greatest player until the end of his contract.
So fun fact about that though is that the Mets might be doing it with Soto. So
Yes. And
although he is smart and he's like, well, I want that money up front. Not necessarily
Yes.
that much, but he wants the money up front. So
yes.
that's,
And
I
that's
think outside of the World Series ending, that's
It's-
basically the hot take right
yeah.
or the hot goss is
it's
all of
MLB free
news,
agency.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the biggest name right now that everybody wants to know is where Soto's going to go, and whether the Yankees pony up the money of what he wants to be paid again, or if he's going to test all these other teams and see what their qualifying offers are before he either re-signs with the Yankees or be set sail to whoever pays him the highest. And Soto, I mean, he's made that abundantly clear that he's just going to go play wherever he gets paid the most. He doesn't really care about loyalty to a team, which I guess good and bad, but it's whoever's got the highest bankroll right now, which is New York, LA. God, if the Dodgers get him, it's not even fair.
The MLB's cooked.
They're not paying the $22 million a year to Shohei, so it's got to go somewhere.
Not yet.
Not yet. But outside of that, I mean, unless we have any breaking MLB free agency stuff in the near future.
It's not necessarily free agency, but I think the actual hottest news as a Cardinals fan, inducted Cardinals fan through my family, is that they're moving. Is it Willie Contreras?
Wilson Contreras. Yeah.
Wilson Contreras. Well, he goes by Willie then as nickname, but Willie Contreras, known catcher for the Cardinals, is going to move to first base.
The reason why is
kind of unknown. But I think it's because
Homie took a bat to the arm and got broken while he was catching.
Yeah.
And then he's like, maybe not anymore.
Yeah, understandable. But I guess the only it's not even really hot talk there is I guess the rumor is that the idea is the move is to try and either like keep him healthy if he stays with the Cardinals or try to like push him into being like, hey, go to some other team. But I don't know. I'm guessing I haven't looked at like the contract or anything, but I'm guessing the Cardinals are probably stuck with him for a bit. But I mean, could work out because Goldschmidt's gone as well. So that's the Cardinals news.
The Twins news is that I believe they're still up for sale. So please, if we don't, if the funds don't kick in soon enough, please someone help.
I'm telling you, it'd be nice to have food again. So if I could just have, please, can I have some more? That'd be great.
I have no Red Sox news in terms of free agency, so
I'm sure it's not like it's gone on that long. So
no, MLB free agency is going to go on until pretty much February, just until players report for spring training. So unless we have any big breaking news between now and February, we'll obviously mention it. But that might be the end of our baseball talk for quite a while until probably starts up again back in March, April.
I can tell all the
you will have the beat
fans
on every single game.
Yeah,
that is a Patreon guarantee.
Boy.
Man,
I would like to review these terms and conditions first.
Yeah, we didn't talk about
it's all on the Patreon site. You've read it over. Don't worry.
That thing that everybody scrolls to the end and just clicks agree.
Yes.
Agree. I just want to get past this.
On the site, it definitely exists. Yes.
Which, if you haven't seen that South Park episode, that's a fantastic.
Hey, no, what do you mean? Patreon definitely exists, Nathan. What are you talking about? Now, does our Patreon exist? That might be up for question. That
it is. You have to really search for it, though.
You may find it, you may not. It could be hidden, but as of right now, Patreon itself exists. Does the Patreon for Sportsball exist? The world may never know. It's basically like the tops.
And just like that, welcome to the Sportsball scavenger hunt.
Please, we will maybe give you some clues to help you find it. But
if you find the site, please let us know.
Please redirect it to us.
Please find it. I am very hungry. Let me eat.
That would be great.
Anyway,
with that, we will transition to. I think we'll do hockey real quick, just because I think we'll say basketball and football for our bigger talking points at the end there. But Avs are coming back to reality. I know that much.
what does that mean exactly, though?
That means that they are kind of a toss-up after their 5-game win streak. They've now got, I think, 1-2, 1-3 since we last talked, somewhere in that area. So they're getting some of their players back from IR and the players assistant program, Valerie Nuchiskin. I always forget how to say his name, but yeah, they're getting their players back. It's probably going to be a very tough grind if they don't figure out how to stop giving up goals pretty quick. Yeah, that's pretty much my take.
Well, I'll save the good news for last then. I'll let Nate go last because as I'm now a noted Predators fan, Nashville Predators, the hockey team, not anything else. Just I feel like
the movie.
They really. I would like to point out. I understand why they did it because their logo is. I think their logo is pretty cool, but man, they really could have chosen a bit better of a name. I'm a fan of the Predators. Not a sentence you always want to be saying, depending on your location. But anyway, the point being, Colorado might be doing bad, but Nashville's doing worse. And a lot of it, I think, from my take, is it's just coming down to the team is still learning how to really gel because they don't look bad. That's the problem. Is like when you watch them, there's some moments where it's like they don't look great, but it's a new team, a whole new team together. It's going to take some time. And the worst part, I mean, again, I'm new enough to hockey. I don't know when, similar to like in football where it's like, you got to give it about 5 to 6 weeks before you really know who's who. I don't know where that happens in hockey, similar to, baseball where it's like from, over the summer until maybe the beginning of fall, you're like, we don't really know who's who yet until things kind of settle in. I will say, though, outside of the Predators looking rough, a lot of season left. They could make it. And I guess I will speak for Jet, who is not on the podcast this week. He may come back at some point if Nate has to keep working overnights and wants to keep skipping out.
Well, we'll see what the next few months look like.
We'll see.
Oh.
But no, I will say he chose the right team. And he was like, wow, it was just based on my name, basically. But they're 12-1. So
Plus
I would
goal
assume
differential might be all right, actually.
Yeah, Winnipeg is doing.
Not a
Winnipeg
hockey
is
analyst.
Doing all right.
Seems all right.
I mean, the only other team right now, I'm trying to get it pulled up, but the only other team right now that seems to be even fighting them anywhere real close is Florida.
And Carolina.
So, yeah, I guess in Carolina. Well, and New Jersey's not far behind in terms of points, but still. But that's not entirely true because then the other team that is the wagon that I'm hitching my also alignment to outside of Nashville is Minnesota, and I'm gonna let Nate take over now. So,
I mean,
wagon, baby.
All I'm gonna say about it is they seem to do a lot better when I admire them from afar, so I'm gonna keep admiring them from afar, and hopefully, fully jump on the bandwagon as they win the final game of the Stanley Cup. That'd be a neat outcome. Otherwise, they're winning games, and I would appreciate it if they kept doing that. So, yeah. My other wagon is that the San Jose Sharks went on a 3-game win streak last week or 2 weeks ago. And I don't have any stats on that, but I assume it's the first time in franchise history. So good on them.
I don't
know if I'd be hitching my horses to the way. And I know this is rich coming from a Predators fan, because as of right now, as of tonight, as we're recording this, they are the worst team in the NHL points wise, which is super cool. But the San Jose Sharks, I don't know if I'd be hitching my wagon to them either. So
futures.
Nate wants to, so
can I interest you in some crypto?
I mean, you can, but I don't know if it's smart to take it.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. Yeah, that's not
NHL
much
talk for now.
Yeah, not much. I mean, we're just probably this each week segment will be just small tad bit updates unless something big happens. But I mean,
it's still early season.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's still early season. As we get further on, we'll have more playoff discussion, I'm sure. So as we get closer, as a Predators fan, I'm guessing we're probably not gonna make it. So be short discussion for me.
Hey man, Avs are not that far behind.
Well, and we'll just cheer on the Wild, because obviously they're gonna go all the way. Hot take. You heard it here first.
As long as I don't watch, yes, they will.
yes, they will.
What kind of fan are you?
There are stipulations in the contract. I don't make the rules here.
Fair enough.
And says so. All right. Before we get into basketball, quick volleyball note here for our women's team. This past week, they went up to Madison and swept those Badgers off their home court, which was, as I was watching, I was just expecting, probably a 4 or 5 set thriller that Wisconsin and Nebraska always go through every time they play. And was quite shocking that they not only swept Wisconsin, but I mean, they weren't like runaway sets. I mean, they were very competitive back and forth sets, but it's just kind of baffling that they went up to Madison and swept them. I mean, there's not much more I can say about that and how they played. And then on Sunday, they went to Northwestern and swept Northwestern with ease. So still number 2 in the nation behind Pittsburgh, who's also another one-loss team. But I know we've mentioned before that both Pittsburgh and Nebraska have lost to the wagon of SMU in volleyball. So no shame in losing SMU, even if we were the first ones to do it and they were unranked. But there's no shame of it now. Everybody loses to them, and it's perfectly okay to accept that.
But at this point, we have to. I mean,
you have to. It's also criminal at the time of this recording that the time that they scheduled to play Oregon, not only on a Thursday of all days during the week, but 9:00 Central on a Thursday when people work the next day, does not seem like an ideal time to have a late night volleyball on our TV. But
it's only 7 o'clock. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, see,
again, that's that fake time zone.
Yeah, fake time zone that we love to discuss. I could have Big Ten After Dark volleyball on a Friday or Saturday night, but on a Thursday night just doesn't feel the same anymore.
We can have Big Ten After Dark any night. We just got past daylight saving time.
I mean, you're right. Anything after 5:30 here is after dark at this rate. It sucks. It sucks driving home, and it's like, sorry, Zach doesn't get to experience this feeling, but some of us, when we get off work, it's almost pitch black when we're trying to drive home at 5 o'clock.
I mean, I don't get to experience the drive home. However, I do get to watch. So, I work from this same office, and these are blackout curtains. So throughout the day, I see no light
at all.
And then when I walk out, I'm like, oh, hey, cool. It's dark.
It burns.
I'm basically a vampire.
Zach was just born in the darkness, molded by it.
Correct. Don't you forget about
it. All right. But obviously, volleyball school, women's team, a wagon, unlike any other. Always will be, no matter what. As long as we remember, we always have that to fall back on. Our sanity in Nebraska sports will be somewhat sane going forward. Well, that over to
somewhat
yes,
sane.
That one. Somewhat sane. switch over to the orange dribble ball, and we'll start with. I think we'll start with the NBA. Yeah. Cavaliers, last undefeated team at this moment. The Thunder lost last night to the 7-foot alien, or as Nate called him, a potato. The
7-foot alien
is
plays
Wemby.
San Antonio.
Yes, that's Wemby. Nate described him as a 7-foot potato. That again,
I think that'd be a pretty big potato.
Have you watched him play basketball?
Dude is so uncoordinated, and he looks so coordinated at the same time.
He makes it look so good. But
I mean, turns out when you're 7 foot freaking tall, you know, that
obviously you've
lankiness
seen
kind of takes over.
his one leg 3 balls that just absolutely rainbow sky, and then all nothing but net when they go in. It's like, how does he do that? And then he makes passing with one arm just kind of like nonchalant. It's like to him it's like he's throwing a baseball.
When you can reach out your arm like this and then it's halfway across the court, then passing's gonna be real easy. It's like, here, take this.
Yes. It's the only reason I brought him up is because the Thunder played Wednesday night, suffered their first loss to Denver, 124-122 at Denver. So Thunder are no longer undefeated. Just fold the team right now. Season's over. Done for.
He gets
just pack it up and move on to the
true sports fan here. True sports fan here. After one loss in an 82 game season, says pack it all in. We're done, boys.
No, that's the correct take. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you know. That's how you know when you're a true sports fan. When after a loss like that, you immediately decide. You immediately decide. Yeah, the world's ending.
Falling.
Everything's dead. Burn it all to the ground. Start over. You know, that's 100% accurate.
Game on Friday.
This thing called a bigger called a bigger picture. It's not a thing. It's not a thing.
I'm very much.
That makes a lot more sense now. Actually,
I'm just here
very much narrow window, small picture in the moment reaction. Done for.
Big pictures for the nerds anyway.
Yeah. Yep. Like who even cares that the Thunder will probably still win 60 more of their games the rest of the season?
Who even cares that
you may have jinxed that, Andy?
I don't think starter minutes is going to be coming back in like 2 weeks.
Yes. And who even cares about big picture of the fact that the Thunder will probably have like 5 first-round protected picks next year because the Sixers and the Clippers are going to tank this year, giving the Thunder those picks.
And somehow still 30 more first-round picks
in
the next 3 years following that.
Who cares about
truly remarkable feat?
Just wait until the rest of the NBA catches up and they're like, that's a pretty solid idea. We should do that. No one's ready for the Pistons to suddenly take over again.
And by the way, their first round top 15 pick isn't even playing this year.
Nope. I think he tore his ACL. Mm-hmm. I think he's rehabbing from that.
Yeah. Not that you need him, but he'll be there next year.
No, not that they need him.
I don't know. Playing basketball, you may need that ACL. Hot take.
No, well, not that they need him this year.
Yeah. No, you need the ACL.
No.
You need him as the person for this season.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about him needing the ACL, not the team needing him.
No.
Understood. Sorry.
No, we will need him eventually, just not now.
Although you did just lose to Denver, so I don't know.
I thought your exact words were, "It's okay to lose to the 7-foot potato."
Correct. Yes. The walking triple double that isn't.
I was gonna say,
cancer of a teammate.
Didn't we determine that he was? Didn't we? I was gonna say, didn't we determine that he was also pretty good at basketball? So
literally
it kind of evens out.
Oh, I have never said he's not good at basketball. He just looks real funny doing it.
No. That's fair. I'm just saying, if we're calling a spade, he can dig a hole. So that's all I'm saying.
He's
funny.
Arguably best player on the planet. So kudos to that. But
it's I figured the first time when they played Denver this opened the season and they won, I'm like, this might be a little bit of a fluke. Just knowing that like your tallest player is Chet and having Chet trying to guard Jokic the majority of the game while trying to stay out of foul trouble.
7 foot, 180 pounds versus 7 foot, 250. So
maybe not the best strategy, but I don't think the Thunder also predicted that Hartenstein was going to get injured in a preseason game too before that. So obviously they didn't plan for that, but once they get him back, it's game over. Then I'll say the season's back on.
But until
then, folding the team. No, is
that another team you can buy?
Well, probably not. Different. We probably should have bought them about 3 years ago when their stock was super low. The stock now is probably a little high. Now, another team we could buy, the Hawks. I think they're going to be sneaky good. I think until they probably go 30 and something. I just like Trae Young.
I don't know.
I think they're a streaky team where it's like they'll go on like a tear for like 5 or 6 games, and everybody's like, oh, they might be the real deal, and then they'll have like the down 5 or 6 games. And I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily like the wave, but that's just my example.
If we wanted to buy a team, if we can't get the Utah Hockey Club to change their name, we could just buy the Jazz, and then we can change their name to the Super Soakers.
True.
The Jazz suck.
See, but we said this like 2 years ago too. Where
their only win this season is the Bulls, but obviously the Bulls are not good. But like, you shouldn't lose to the Jazz.
Yeah, they just played the other 1-6 team and lost by like 20 tonight. So.
Yeah, like you shouldn't at this point. You shouldn't lose to the Jazz. Yeah, the Bucks beat them, which again,
so is the Bucks Detroit also not the worst team anymore?
No, they're 3-6.
Yo, what?
The Bucks are 1 or 6. Mm-hmm. The 76ers are 1-6. Now, granted, Embiid not playing.
Paul George finally played his first game last night. Yeah.
And then Embiid's suspended for 3 more for hitting a reporter. So
what a genius.
Rightfully so. I
mean, rightfully so, but it's like,
yeah,
I don't know what's happening with Embiid anymore.
I don't think he even knows at this point.
Dude is like, he was good in the Olympics.
The only bigger anomaly in the NBA than
he had like one good game, Nate.
The only bigger
good game.
Hold on. The only bigger anomaly than him is Ben Simmons, if we're being honest.
Dude, I miss Ben Simmons.
Hey, Ben Simmons has always been garbage. Joel Embiid has had a couple good seasons.
I do miss making fun of Ben Simmons, though.
Where'd he go? I thought he was still in the NBA.
He's in Brooklyn, yeah.
I was gonna say I thought he was still in.
Well, yeah, but like he's not like on a relevant big time team anymore. So like he's not going to be
4th in the East at the moment.
Dude, it's not like Ben Simmons himself has also been that relevant for a while outside
That's
of
what I'm saying. It's like
outside of his notable lack of effort. So.
He was never relevant to begin with.
Well,
it was fun to make fun of him.
I would only halfway argue because he was kind of supposed to be at one point like, oh, he's going to come in and do really, really well in the NBA. Not necessarily change the game type of person, but just like, oh, he's going to do really well in the NBA. He's gonna his skill set will transfer. And then
anything in college, and then he didn't show anything in the NBA.
I'm just saying.
He didn't play a game for like 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just saying, people were talking him up like, oh, like he just needs to get on the right team and find the right fit. And then it turns out, no, that wasn't true either.
On that Lonzo Ball trajectory.
See, but at least Lonzo Ball, like his biggest fan was his dad. Like, that's what you expect. Like, good for him. At least he has a dad that believes in him. Woohoo.
That's fair.
I thought you were just gonna end that with at least he has a dad.
Come on now.
Jeez.
I thought you were just gonna stop.
Andy said it, not me, notably. If anybody's gonna get canceled on this podcast, it can't be me. I didn't say it, so
I did not expect that where that was gonna go.
Good Lord. I am a Christian man.
Anyways, anyways, the Thunder are going to be fine despite me folding the team until Hartstein's back.
Well, thanks to the Thunder losing, though, the Suns are now number 1 in the West.
I know, and
sneaky, straight up, honestly sneaky.
The Thunder have now a 6-game homestand, with including at the end of that homestand, the Suns coming to town on the 15th, Zach. So
I will say this: the Suns have been playing, pun intended entirely, I guess, but they've been playing very close to the Sun. A lot of their games, they'll play really good first half. I haven't been able to watch too many of them. I've just been keeping up on my phone, like as the games happen. They'll get ahead really good in like the first half, and then somewhere in the third quarter, they seem to like notably, they'll get like a 15 to 20 point lead. And it's like, oh, okay. Like all they have to do is keep doing what they're doing after halftime. And of course, this is the NBA. So like the other team makes adjustments, but then apparently the Suns are just like, the third quarter, we don't have to do anything. Well, then the other team comes back. And so then the fourth quarter becomes a madhouse. And so far it's just like, what are we doing? And then they pull out the win at the end, but it's like, okay, you guys are doing well enough in the first half. It shouldn't have to be a pull-out win at the end. It should be keep doing the thing to win the game and just, get it out of hand. But
to be fair, you at least have KD as your closer. I would put a lot of money in him being able to successfully finish games at a pretty good clip.
We have that, and it's still early in the season, but Bradley Beal, who hasn't played, I think the last three games, I think. But he's played most of them, at least half of them so far. He's played really well. And then on top of that, Ryan Dunn, the new defensive pick that they had from the draft, has done supremely well. I mean, his stats are just like his big concern coming into the season for the Suns was, he's a defensive player, which is great. They needed that, but like his shot wasn't there. And then he got to the Suns, and apparently they decided we'll work on that. And then, like he's not the greatest shooter on the team. That would probably be either KD or Book, but still, like he's been kind of that catalyst for the team, where that rookie catalyst, where it's like, oh, like he's really, really good, and he's just getting better. So it kind of worked out that Bradley Beal was hurt because he's taking those minutes. So
yeah,
the Suns are doing good.
Kind of what you had said before, how the Suns kind of in the third quarter, start to quote unquote lollygag and then have to clutch it up in the fourth quarter. That was like last night's game for OKC. I mean, they had a 16-point lead against Denver. They kind of struggled on offense, and then Denver just started hitting a barrage of threes. And then all of a sudden, OKC had to play clutch minutes in the fourth quarter. So hopefully that's not a common theme. But, like Nate said, I would also take KD being your closer 10 out of 10 nights.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like looking at the schedule they had. Like last night they did it against the Heat. The 76ers were before that. And then the Trailblazers. So like they've been on like a downward trajectory of like teams that they should beat, kind of thing. And it's still the NBA. It's kind of similar to the NFL, where any given Sunday, right? The NBA is still full of the best basketball players in the U.S. So they're still good at basketball, and at any given time, a team that really, really sucks on paper can still win a game. So it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to go in and win, but these comeback wins have come against, in the early part of the season, the Clippers, the Lakers on one of them, the Mavs. So it's not like they're playing scrub teams, and I don't think the Thunder are either. It's just
Golden State is, except for the last game against Boston.
Well,
that is true.
I'm just saying. I think you can learn a lot about a team in the early season of how they play and how they come back in those moments. And compared to last year, the Suns they had no fourth quarter. Like they would come back, quote unquote, but they would never be able to pull it off. Where this year it's the opposite, where it's like, they might be down at halftime, but then they'll make the adjustments and then they come back and win. So far, I mean, granted, it might not stick that way and teams might adjust. Obviously, I'm sure it will happen, but it's been interesting. It's been kind of fun to follow them. It just sucks that I can't watch them. I don't have like the NBA pass or anything. So I have to just kind of watch from. It's similar to Nate with the Wild, where it's just like I kind of have to watch from afar where they're winning. So I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm not gonna jinx it by watching them. So
it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yep.
Although to be fair, the last time that I did watch them was the first game against the Clippers that went to overtime and they won. So then I didn't watch after that. So far,
have they gone to overtime after that?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't think so. I think one got really close, but I don't think they actually went to overtime. But I could be wrong on that. I don't remember. But I hope not, because overtime games in basketball are heart palpitation inducing. So
right. All right, Nate, your team.
The Wolves are back. Yep. As the kids say. They had a very
the kids say skibbity riz now, I think.
I know what that means.
Yeah. It means skibbity toilet.
Yeah.
I also
skibbity
know what that
toilet.
means.
Skibbity toilet Ohio riz.
They followed up a pretty tight game with Dallas. They ended up losing that one, but then had that Friday night, down to the wire game against Denver. They were able to pull out a 3-point win. I think it was like 8 o'clock local tip, which is crazy for a game starting in Central Time.
Yeah.
And then they got to follow that up by flying to San Antonio at 2 a.m, arriving there at 4:30 a.m, and playing San Antonio at 6 or 7 that night. So they followed that one up with a loss because San Antonio also has a 7'4" alien playing point guard. So schedule loss there, but they've come out and just kind of blew the doors off of Charlotte and Chicago. Again, not necessarily world beater opponents, but Anthony Edwards is on a side quest to prove that he is a good 3-point shooter. And so far through 8 games, he is shooting 45% from 3, which typically 40% is the mark of a pretty good 3-point shooter for those playing along. So
is it like trying to do a side quest in Elder Scrolls?
A little bit, yeah, actually.
But without the inevitable, you'll never finish the side quest type completion game.
Because obviously, again, pretty early, but he's shooting at a Steph Curry type clip right now when Steph was in his prime. So
some would say
that'll be. Yes.
I was gonna say, I think last I checked, Steph Curry was good at basketball at one point. Yeah. I think he still might be, but
at the very least, he's okay at 3-pointers. So
he won us the gold medal in the Olympics, literally.
Yeah, he did a good job doing it too.
I think going back to like those French announcers calling him the devil when he started hitting those barrage of threes. That was great.
You know what? Good for him. Good for him.
But yeah, my only schedule note is that the Wolves get to now play Portland 3 times in 5 days for some reason. And they play Portland 4 times the entire season. So
Adam Silver knows what he's doing.
That was such a weird scheduling. Yeah, like I would be curious though, like if I don't know if it would work very well in the NBA in this sense, but it would be really curious if they would do like baseball does, where you play like series games. So like best of 3 basically. I'd be curious how much different that would be. Like how I don't know if it would necessarily change the game necessarily, but I'd be very curious like if you could do that. But
that's what the playoffs are for.
Well, yeah, obviously. Like that's they play the entire schedule.
And apparently very specific parts of the regular season.
That's what I mean, though. Like this is 100% like maybe that's what they're doing. Yep. Maybe they're testing out like, this is the series test. Let's see if we can make this work. But I think 82. I don't think 82 games is enough to be able to squeeze something like that in there either. So
it's at least one of them is a back-to-back, and they're both in Portland, so that at least makes some sense.
Yeah.
So
still weird.
They're not playing a game in Minnesota till 11 at night to fly into San Antonio for a game the next night.
That's still weird. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna be able to figure out, anything like that. But like, this is weird. Doesn't make any damn sense.
Unless we get a couple more Patreon donations,
Yes,
we could buy the league. We could buy the league.
The league.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll make our own schedule.
At what point do we? Well, we'll just throw it into AWS and have them do it. That's seeing for like NFL. We'll just give it to them. Like, just call up Jeff Bezos. Well, he doesn't own them anymore. I guess. Well, he profited off them, obviously, but
right.
It's just at this point, just be like, "Yo, can you make a schedule for us real quick? Thanks." So there you go. I feel like that Patreon number keeps going up. What are we at now? 14 bill.
Yes.
Enough. We're at enough. We'll let you know.
We need more though.
Yeah, we'll let you know when it's enough. Just keep donating, and we'll let you know when to stop.
Please, I really want to eat. I promise I'll stop using that joke after this episode.
No, you won't.
Maybe.
I was just gonna say.
No, I'll come up with a different joke next time. It'll be something different in the same vein, but it'll be something different.
That checks out.
I promise.
All right. With that, done for NBA talk. We'll talk about college basketball that started on Monday. We're back in the full swing of all basketball now.
Which I would like to say before we start, does it just feel early to you guys?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It feels reverse. I still feel like college basketball should start before college and NBA. It just feels weird, but I don't think it's ever been that way, but it does still feel early. It feels weird.
I think it's early, but that was me. But
yeah, I'm not mad about it, but
I'm not mad about it either.
They're like, "Oh yeah, college basketball starts." And I was like, "Are you sure?"
The only notable upset, I think, and this does impact Nebraska, is that what was it? North Florida? Yeah, North Florida, who Nebraska plays at some point in the season, went to South Carolina and beat South Carolina at home. In terms of like quote unquote upsets to begin the season, I mean that's a bye game that you schedule to see how your team is and you lose it. But outside of that, Nebraska opened on Monday night against the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, which is a lot of
letters.
A lot of letters for UTRGV. I will not be surprised based on how that team played and how they played against Creighton, because the same team played Creighton last night as well. I will not be surprised if that team very much wins their conference or pushes for like an at-large NCAA berth. They were, first off, it's a team that takes a crap ton of threes, like a lot of threes. They shot 41 threes against Nebraska. Only made, I think, 13 of them. Yeah, only made 13 of them. And then against Creighton, they shot 35 threes and made 14. So a little bit better mark on that point. But they shoot a lot of threes. And they put up 67 against Nebraska. They put up 86 against Creighton last night. Now, granted, Creighton also had 49 points from Kalkbrenner themselves. So very easy to see early on how Creighton's going to run their offense. It's going to go through the 7-foot center naturally.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy, right? I know. Weird. Let's give it to our 7'1", 4th or 5th year senior, Big East player, preseason player of the year, and just give him the ball.
Now, hold on.
Unlike how Purdue ran through Edie.
Hold on a second. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. And I know this is bringing more football things into it, but how many times have we argued, at least with like football offensive coordinators and such, specifically, weird example, not at all a spoiler. However, like sometimes you need to just keep it simple. I feel like basketball is kind of the same thing, where it's like, hey, you have this obvious thing that you should probably keep giving the ball to until it doesn't work. And most college basketball teams will just be like, wait, what? We're supposed to do what now? Huh? And they just don't do it. And so, people will be like, yo, use the 7-foot guy. He's probably good at basketball, being that he only needs to go 3 feet to get to the scoring spot. Call me crazy.
Truly no way to know, though.
Yeah, you're right. There's no way to know.
I don't know if we'll ever really find out, but I'm just saying. I feel like we've had this discussion before about other sports. Again, specifically about offensive coordinators of football. Not at all a spoiler. I'm just saying.
Yes, there's no way to know.
There truly isn't any way to know.
There is truly absolutely no way to know. But in terms of Nebraska, so I figured it was going to be, I mean, the way that the first half went, first off, extremely heavy refs game. I mean, I think the first half ended with 21 total team fouls, which is absolutely insane for game one. But maybe an idea of what kind of the reffing is going to be like, this year, what they're calling, so on and so forth. A lot of good that came out of the game, a lot of things that Nebraska still needs to, fix, pick up on. I also, at the same time, as I was watching the game, I was getting irrationally mad, this team should be better. I also have to realize that, the only two real starters from last season are just Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams. Everybody else is either a transfer, it is a transfer, or just wasn't in the starting lineup. So also have to take into account, it's probably going to take them a few games of not practicing against themselves and scrimmaging against themselves that they have done all season, and getting real competition to kind of gel, figure out, with Raleigh being a true point guard, which was really refreshing to see. I mean, Nebraska was lacking last year, and then he just, he kind of commanded the game, didn't make too many mistakes, was really good on defense. So, you would expect that from a senior transfer at another Power 5 school, but clearly Bryce took over that game. Led I think with 28 points or 27 points, 27. So clearly he's going to take on more of a scoring role this year. Now that Casey's gone, with Josiah Alex gone, so I would like to see Juwan Gary get a little bit more involved. But again, this also might be just game one, trying to figure things out. Andrew Morgan's going to be really good at center. I think, he's going to be your physical Big Ten center that we kind of lacked last year. Rank had the height, but he wasn't. I mean, he's more of like a point guard center, basically. He's out all season with that surgery he had in the offseason. He'll be back next season with that. And then you had Connor. I'm gonna have to look up how to say his
I think it's Esijan.
Esijan, yeah. He's going to be your replacement 3-point makeup that Casey had for you last year. So he went 3 for 3 on threes when he did come in and make them. So I think as Fred realizes that when he's in the game, there's probably going to be a lot more sets to try to get Connor open on the perimeter, get him open for threes. But, again, I know who they played. UT RGV is a very 3-point heavy set team. Nebraska did struggle at times trying to guard the perimeter. Again, I don't know how many teams you're going to face. Maybe Creighton is probably going to be the next one that's going to take a lot of threes on you. So their guarding of the perimeter on defense was a little shaky at times, but that might have been just the other team's game plan of how they move the ball. Because there were certainly times where they passed up twos to pass the ball around the perimeter to shoot a 3 against Nebraska. So, and that might be a weak point in Fred's defense, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. And again, it just might have been who they played. But defense, they also had a little bit of a turnover problem that, hopefully doesn't lack or go on the rest of the way. Didn't have so much in the second half, but that first half, I think Nebraska had about 7 or 8 turnovers. So definitely was better in the second half, but still 13 total turnovers. Probably don't want that every single game. But didn't cost them, didn't bite them in the butt or anything. So it was a good opening win, a 20-point win against the team that I think whatever their conference is probably going to be, really good, really pesky team in their conference that'll fight for an NCAA at large berth. But Nate, I know you'd watched the game. Zach was only secondhand of our comments. Basically,
I mean, I kept up on like the game cast on ESPN, but I didn't get to watch it. So
Nate, what'd you see with our game one of our new team?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo the same sentiments that you have, where it's just a lot of transfers, gonna take some time to get everyone to gel, and yeah, early season games are always kind of hit or miss, but it was encouraging to come out and beat a team that you should, in theory, beat by 20. So that hasn't always happened in the recent history of Nebraska ball. So that's encouraging. And then the other thing that I really enjoyed was just the fact that they were actually running an offense that wasn't just passing the ball around the perimeter until someone shot it or drove to the basket. So it was nice to see some actual like pick and roll action and moving off the ball. So they looked like an actual team, and that was really neat.
It definitely helps. Like I know obviously Rank last year was like a tall center, but like he was not a true center compared to what we saw with Andrew Morgan on Monday. Andrew Morgan's like a definitely physical type down low post player. Rank could be, but that's not really what his specialty was either. So yes, you can run a lot more pick and roll action when you know that Morgan's coming off the roll and he's going to be physical going up to the rim when he gets the ball. So it's nice with that. I made a texted this about halfway through the game of seeing I think Maya.
I think it was halfway through the first half. I don't think we made it that far.
Maya. He was just like, I already know I'm gonna hate Braxton Maya. And rightfully so. He did not have a great game anytime he was in. So
if Nikola Jokic was an actual potato, that would be Braxton Maya.
It was very surprising how far Nate made it in the game before he said that.
Just no defensive effort, not even a thought of finesse on the offensive side of the ball.
It's game one.
It is game one. I'll give
it
him
makes
time.
a lot of sense why he only played 10 minutes.
But
also fair.
But if we were doing candidates to fire into the sun, we
still are.
He would be agent number one there. I think.
I still feel like we are doing fire into the sun, but we're not going to do it on game one of college basketball. That's a little
very
unfair.
early candidate for it.
For right now, sure, based off of game one. Fine, I'll give you that.
Theoretically, if we were, his campaign has been prime.
All I'm saying, it seems a little unfair to on game one with things still need to gel. It's gonna take some time.
Oh yeah, yep.
Just seems,
and I hope it was just a blip and needing to get more familiar.
There does exist a possibility where he doesn't get better, and at that point, fine. All I'm saying is give it some time.
He had a rough first showing, and sky's the limit still. So
the sky is still the limit. There's still a lot to learn with this team.
We are 1-0, so
we are 1-0. Game one against a team that, like Nate said, should win by 20.
UConn, I guess.
Okay, well,
and then
let's not go that far.
And then we play Bethune on Saturday. As of this recording is 2 days away, but when this comes out, it'll be tomorrow. So
yes.
So that's
7 p.m. under the lights on BTN Plus. The game everybody's talking about.
I will say though, obviously we all have a lot to. I saw this today. I saw it this morning when I was just checking through ESPN. Jay Bilas, I think I got his. I think I got his name. Bilas, whatever.
Jay Bilas.
Yeah. Anyway, he has Nebraska ranked at number 58 on his power index. So not bad. It's obviously lower, but it's on the list, where I would argue that we probably weren't on that list a few years ago. Maybe last year. I don't remember, but probably not.
Yeah. I mean, my main thoughts from them are that I don't think they'll be world beaters by any means, but I think they have a chance to be competitive in just about every game they play.
It's the trajectory. Like last year was kind of the trajectory of we got to the big weekend, the March Madness tournament, and this year I think now the goal would be at minimum get back, and then we at least get back. Be like, okay, so like there's a constant, like we can do it, but then if we can win a game this year, then it's like there's progress.
Yeah, and it's just going to be the slog of the Big Ten season, kind of like football, because I think just about every team in the Big Ten is rated like in the top 70 or 75 at Ken Pomeroy right now.
Yep.
So
they get to be a battle play, and then they just eat each other alive, which is every season.
Yep.
This just goes back. We were talking about this on the side, just like looking at some of these college basketball names, though, like team names. Some of these are great. Like I'm looking at like Nebraska schedule. On the 30th of December, we play Southern.
Yeah, just Southern.
Southern.
Yes.
Don't know where they're from. I'm just looking. I'm looking at the schedule. I'm not delving in. But
the South.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hold on. We're gonna find out real quick while we're on this.
I don't have good sources on that, but I'm gonna assume the South.
Southern Jaguars.
You might be somewhat right there, Nate.
You have a pretty good chance.
Technically right is the best kind of right. As we all know.
Let's see. That doesn't tell me.
Yeah, well, that's what they want you to believe.
Southern Jaguars. Where are you from? Oh my goodness. I'm Googling this. Representing Southern University. Where are you from?
Zach, you of all people should know the internet.
Turns out it's actually an online college.
Okay. You know what? While we're here, I found it. I found where they're from.
It's called Wayne State, actually.
Take a guess. Come on now. Take a guess now. I'm curious where you guys think it's from. So yes, it is.
I'm gonna say Alabama.
Okay.
I'll go Louisiana.
Oh, we got it. It was Louisiana.
Let's go.
Baton Rouge, specifically. So, Louisiana.
The only college in Baton Rouge.
Correct.
Oh.
Correct.
And
notably.
Coach
don't look into that.
Coach O would like to have some words with you, Nate.
I wouldn't understand him anyways.
What do you mean?
I mean, that's fair. Fair. I wouldn't know if he was angry or just like nicely talking to me. It could be both.
Wonder what he's up to nowadays.
That's a great question. I couldn't tell you.
Well, I was thinking you had his phone number.
I could. No, I don't.
What are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm hanging out with Edo. Just hanging out with Coach O. Doing what? Nah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about
hanging out.
I can't disclose that information.
I don't think he's doing anything. He might be just chilling.
I mean, he did all right for himself while he was coaching. So
yeah, he got what he needed and got out.
Correct.
All right, with that, over to the NFL foosball first. I don't even know what happened last Thursday. Oh yeah, the Texans Jets. Oh, gross. I don't really want to talk about
Once again, Thursday night football continues to be awful.
Oh.
Hey,
that's a game that's right now.
Apparently, so.
And Mark Andrews just scored.
I was gonna say Thursday night football continues to be terrible, except for like 3 games a year. And we've already, at this point,
and the one next week is going to be great too.
Who's that one?
Well, it's your team, Zach. Commies, Eagles.
That one should be good. Should be. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm a little nervous. I'm going to
be blew it last week.
All right, well, with that, we'll start with the Eagles then. Dude, the first half of that game, it was funny because I was actually sitting here. I was playing.
The Jags have nobody on offense but Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, hold on though. I would like to point out. You're correct, but I would.
And I guess Evan Ingram is back, so like he is actually kind of good. But like, outside of that, they don't have anybody on offense.
The first touchdown they scored, I was like, okay, like the Eagles are kind of letting up off the gas, which I hate it when it happens, but I understand why it happens in football now. Whatever. What really killed it, though, is immediately after that, when Saquon fumbled that ball, but then they're like, when everybody's like, oh, he was down by contact, and then they still ruled it a fumble and then a return for touchdown. I mean, the momentum shifted there at that point. And then for whatever reason, the only other questionable stuff, I shouldn't say questionable, because some of the play calls where, like, going forward on fourth, they were odd. They were odd play calls. So like the one that everybody keeps bringing up, like on the internet, is the decision to go for it on 2 instead of taking the extra point that was just made because of the penalty. I'm like 99% of other teams would have 100% gone for 2 there because the momentum was on the Eagles side. I didn't hate the play call. I hate that it didn't go in, but the results weren't fantastic, but the play call itself wasn't bad. The other fourth down calls and, the not taking the points where you could have, I was like, I didn't love it. And obviously it got a little clenchy there at the end, obviously, until the pick that sealed the game, but they won the game. And I guess that was what I took from it, is that the talent of the team outweighed some of the bad coaching decisions. And so the team, as good as they were, even without AJ Brown for that matter too, like the talent that's on the team rose to the occasion and won, even when coaching or whoever, wherever that blame lies, which at this point would be the head coach in general. But wherever that lies, it comes down to the team said, even though you're putting us in these positions where we could have scored 3 points or, an extra point here or whatever, it's just like they still managed to win. So they should have won more decidedly, yes, but they won. And now hopefully they take that into next week here, going into Dallas, where a very beat up Dallas, a very decrepit Dallas.
Trey Lance.
But that's the other thing. That's the other thing. In recent years, the Eagles have a history of playing very, very, very poorly against backup quarterbacks, which is just a very oddly specific stat, but it is a statistic. And so it's just like, I don't know. I'm only slightly nervous, but I do hope, I hope that the winning against the Jaguars in the way that they did, I still maintain, though, that game would have not been as close had it not been for that fumble return for touchdown, because I think the Eagles would have kept driving because Saquon was running all over them.
I was going to say, I believe
in
the
that
Eagles solely because Saquon can hurdle people backwards, apparently.
I will say this, as cool of a play as that was, I got very, very, very tired of seeing it all the time. It's a very cool play. It is a very cool play. But it's like, guys, there were other really, really cool plays.
Do you know who taught him that move? His dynasty fantasy coach, right here.
Oh, well, wow. Does that mean you're going to demonstrate it for us live on the podcast
right now?
No.
Not with that attitude.
I haven't done my stretching, and it's not gonna go great if I don't do that. So I will wait to do that next week. But,
sure. With his fingers tied behind his back. It's like, oh, next week, guys, next week.
Jamar Chase also just had like another insanely long touchdown pass. So congrats to Joe Burrow there to Zach. Lighting it up right now.
Hot take.
We're talking about the current Thursday night game that's happening.
Very much happening. Hot take. Yeah, I was gonna say we'll probably we might be able to say who won by the time we get done with this, but
we probably will.
Hot take. Jamar
it's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so yes, we will.
Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow good at football. Weird.
Yes, they are.
All right, that's my Eagles.
Joe Burrow's good at football as long as it's at least halfway through the season.
Yeah,
he doesn't start until at least like week 5.
I don't think that's fair. I think it's the rest of the team, because he didn't play, like, he wasn't playing great, but he was not playing all that awful either. He was just very middling.
Yes, Zach. The one thing I will say about your team is that your coach, when it comes to taking points on drives, just loves to not do it.
Which really,
he's very consistent, at least with it.
And the one play where it was like 4th and 1. I guess that wasn't the last Eagles point, but the other play that really chapped me was where it's like you have the known play that works within 2 yards, basically. And yes, I understand we don't have Jason Kelsey anymore, but like, Cam Jurgens is not that bad. He's fit that role pretty well. He's not perfect at it in the way that Jason Kelsey was, so the percentage of success has gone down a little bit.
Quick question. Where did Cam Jurgens go to college?
Nebraska.
Ah, cool. Proceed.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Judge.
I just had to plug something there.
Yeah, no. Under which head coach, by the way?
Oh,
not important.
All I'm saying is he was very talented. Anyway, you have a play that works at least 85% of the time. I haven't looked up the stats of how much they've made it work this year, but it was 93 or whatever, and leading up to the Super Bowl or whatever it was. And so it's like you have the play that works and you're within it. Just run it. It goes back to the keep it simple, stupid method in my head. But I guess whatever. Like I don't know. I don't know why they tried to trick play it there. Maybe to be fair, I guess I don't know this for a fact. Maybe they didn't. Maybe Sirianni was like, "Oh, just go run the tush push," and then they audibled out of it or something. I don't know. It didn't seem like it, but regardless, I'm just like, why are we trying so hard to do something that doesn't need to happen? Right. But whatever. They won the game, so it worked out.
I fully support getting Jalen Hurts more touchdowns. So,
I mean, I'll never turn down that.
I don't, because every other team in that situation, when you have Saquon Barkley as a running back, when it's 4th and 1, 4th and inches, like, yeah, let's give the ball to literally a guy that can squat more than any of you and just get the first down. But no, Zach's team likes to do this stupid little play that gets Jalen Hurts all the fantasy points, and that's Saquon. It's fine.
I don't know why you're
heard about it.
I think it's a pretty good game plan.
Yeah, you two are biased about it, and meanwhile, I'm just trying to survive with Saquon.
No.
I would just like to point out I'm biased from the team perspective, not dynasty at all. Especially this year, my dynasty team in our league has been awful. So,
yeah, you're tanking.
I'm biased from my team perspective.
I am 100% not taking Shedeur, but actually, I might, because I took Michael Penix this last year. So,
hey, as long as Jeff Sims is still available, I'm picking.
There you go.
I would advise you talk to your counselor to not.
He's gonna light up. He's gonna light up the league.
Yeah, it's like the Ben Simmons. He's being held back in college. He just needs a chance in the pros.
Oh, Nate, I have something to tell you.
It's works 100% of the time. I'm pretty sure.
Let me tell you, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you.
With that, other scores. We got to talk about Jets team that the Panthers got him to fire his head coach.
Yeah, when you out offense the team entirely and still pull off the L, that's not a great look.
I still think my favorite thing that came out of that was the stat that it was like whatever it was, like they led in the turnover battle and this, that, the other, and they were like 275-0. And then after that, it's 275-1.
So yeah, Saints lost to the Panthers. Saints fired their head coach, Dennis Allen. So they're the first team on the market to look for a new head coach at the start of next season, or I guess at the end of the season. They'll be one of the, I'm not going to say hot commodities, but they'll be one of the teams looking for a head coach among probably some others. But
it's going to be tough for them too, because they're in some cap hell.
They are in cap hell.
I don't know who wouldn't want to work with Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler as the quarterback, though.
Certainly.
Oh, God, that's Mike Vrabel's music.
You might not actually be far off of that.
Honestly, I feel like he could, although I would be willing to bet that if that's the case, that, somehow Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler are probably not going to be there. It's probably going to be blown up from the inside if he comes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, not really too many other exciting games. I mean, the Rams Seahawks, the end of that one was thrilling. Chino again, if Geno doesn't throw 2 red zone interceptions, they'd probably beat the Rams. But he did, and one of them was a pick 6.
Weren't they both the same guy too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Seahawks are probably kicking themselves because they could have won and led the division, and now their Rams are tied with Arizona. Arizona is tied for top of the NFC West.
I would like to ask a question here. How
are you asking if this is a safe space?
Yes, Nate, please go ahead.
How does Kyler Murray go 13 for 20 for 154 yards and they still beat an NFL team by 20? Homie got me less than 5 fantasy points in the league.
and
they beat a team by 20.
The Bears famously
it's called skill, Nathan.
Not good. If we wanted to know that.
Man.
It's called skill, Nathan. Come on.
Yeah, Bears are not good. So but congrats to the Cardinals, and they're tied at the first place division right now in the NFC West.
I know how Kyler did it because Call of Duty came out.
Well, yes.
But I don't know how the team did it.
Yeah, I don't know how the team did it, but we know how Kyler did it. I mean, no other really. I mean, the Lions are still good. That's not a shock.
Warmed my heart to see the Packers and Bears put back in their place.
I was gonna say, really, at this point though, like the Lions are definitely making their case of
it's gonna be whoever can knock off Detroit in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I have no question or doubt it's gonna be whoever can beat Detroit and the NFC side that's gonna go to the Super Bowl. If not, it's Detroit.
There's one team that played them within 2 points this year. So
yes, and that's you got to play them again, and then maybe a third time, if you meet them in the playoffs. So it's Detroit's conference essentially to lose at this rate.
It's crazy too to think that the Chiefs are ranked above them, and yet if I were to put money on, this is tough because the Chiefs are always going to get those flag calls.
Right.
So, but like if we're talking about just pure like best team on the field, I think Detroit bodies them.
Oh yeah.
Like the Chiefs defense is really, really good, and it is probably going to be one of the teams that would slow down Detroit. Slow down, not stop. But Detroit's defense would probably completely stop. Almost stop Kansas City's defense or offense. So,
and speaking of,
Bounty Gate would probably stop a lot of people. So,
no.
Hey.
Dan Campbell won't, because Dan Campbell has admitted to eating kneecaps.
Yeah, well, Dan Campbell was a part of Bounty Gate.
So. Speaking of the Chiefs, obviously, I think we all knew the minute that the Bucks didn't go for 2 points that Kansas City was going to win it overtime. And if you look at Baker's reaction on the coin toss when they lost it, that 100% tells you that like he knew, he was like, yeah, I'm not getting the ball. So Kansas City escapes Monday Night Football with a overtime win against Tampa Bay. And Tampa, despite missing their 2 top wide receivers, still looked pretty good on offense. I mean, Baker is really good when he's not throwing. They did cover for Zach's perspective, but yeah, Baker's really good when he's not throwing 3 interceptions a game, as are most quarterbacks. But I've kind of liked the Baker redemption storyline. I mean, it's the fact that he went from Cleveland to Carolina to LA, then has now finally found like a good home in Tampa. It's good that there's a future for Bryce Young somewhere if he just gets out of Carolina.
Also see Samuel Darnold.
Yes, CC Samuel Darnold.
I don't.
There are homes for you outside of Carolina, Bryce. You just got to get out of there.
Yeah, like I don't like Baker at all. like as a quarterback, but I respect his redemption arc. Like it's hard not to cheer for him, especially after Cleveland treated him like crap. So I agree. I also don't care I don't really like that he plays on the Bucks just because it seems like for whatever reason the Bucks always have the Eagles number somehow. It's just like this sucks. And so then every time they play, it's just like the Eagles could make the worst Bucks team in the world look like the freaking Super Bowl champions. It's
right.
Like, cool. I love that. Love that every time.
I can. Any guesses what Carolina's point differential is 9 games into the season?
To be fair, I am looking right at it, so I'm not going to guess because I'm staring at it. But it's up to Andy now. It's not good.
One of the things is not like the others. I will tell you that.
Is it? Is it minus 150?
Close.
Damn close.
Close. Minus 146.
Oh.
And then on the flip side, you have Detroit. And on the flip side, you have Detroit at plus 110. So obviously,
oh jeez.
Minus 146.
Hell of a difference. Yeah.
Which is funny because I'm looking at like the league rankings on ESPN, and here's what gets me is that Carolina is not at the bottom of the list.
They did beat the team below them.
Right. So
sorry, Jet.
1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 teams below them on my list here, and this is the whole league.
So this isn't the South. That's my bad.
Well, I was gonna say I'm not looking even at I'm not looking at conferences. This is just the entire league. The Carolina Panthers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They are 6th up from the bottom. But below them is Jacksonville, then the Raiders, then the Saints, then the Patriots, then the Giants are on the dead bottom. And I'm not for sure what the metric is that they're using here. Maybe home games, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the metric is that they're using here to determine that, but
it's just so funny. All the the worst teams around them are like minus 70, minus 60, one minus 80, and
minus 146,
150. Like, whoa, no,
it's not great.
Poor Carolina. Oh, you know what it is. You know what it is. I just realized it. What it is that Carolina just won, and then all the other teams below them are on a losing streak. So
that makes what it is.
Which is still odd because by these metrics that shouldn't matter. But I guess you do ESPN.
Yes. I'm not going to talk much about my game. There's not much to talk about. They got stopped by the Ravens, and that happens. You know, Lamar Jackson's good at football. Who would have thought? But yeah, it's just kind of a reality check for the defense. You know, considering they've been so strong up until that point, which again makes sense when you play the literal top offense in the NFL. The team that had scored the most points and like the most yards per play going into that game certainly proved it as to why. And then when you have a monster truck of a running back that refuses to be tackled, and Derrick Henry, pretty hard to win with that lethal combination on defense. So, yeah, good. I'd almost call it like a tune-up game for what Denver's going to see next, because you're going to see a very similar type of offense next Sunday when you play Kansas City. I mean, you have obviously one of the best quarterbacks and a set of receivers that are really good to defend. So it's kind of a good way that Denver gets, you know, these games back to back. Is it's kind of like a prep game to see in Kansas City, which is going to act very similar to how the Ravens run their offense. So I don't have much more to say other than, you know, a 39-point loss is kind of okay, we got our butts kicked. You move on. That's about it.
I don't know, man. Like I don't fully disagree, but I kind of disagree on the sense of I think the Ravens are the tougher team in terms of like the defense to play against. The Chiefs just have not looked as explosive this year.
No. But you take into account that it's Patrick Mahomes in any given setting.
Well,
that was DeAndre Hopkins there too.
Yeah, but I mean,
like 5 years ago, DeAndre Hopkins, yes.
I mean, DeAndre didn't look bad against the Bucks, but it's not like he was a world beater either. Like he did have the touchdown, but it's just like, you're right.
It's not
Patrick
Kadarius
Mahomes,
Toney that he's throwing the ball to, so there's at least a chance I'll catch it.
That is true. That is true, but I don't know. Like the Ravens, I think are the tougher team. So like, I don't know what they took from the Ravens' loss. Is my point, but like
probably not a whole lot. I think it might have been just a flush a game, like kind of what Nebraska did against Indiana. It's like you flush it, you move on, you got your butts kicked, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think there could be some. I could see a bounce back game, not necessarily a win, or maybe not even a cover. I don't know what the line is, but still, like you might be.
I would guess. I guess. I would guess. I haven't. I mean, I'll look it up right now. My first guess would probably be similar to what they were against Baltimore, kind of like a slightly over touchdown line.
I was gonna say maybe 7.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
It's
still Kansas City.
It's still Kansas City, and
Arrowhead.
I mean, it is. Yeah, it's at Arrowhead, but it's the crazy part about this game is. It's going to be, technically a quote unquote short week for Kansas City since they played on Monday. The day before, Kansas, like Arrowhead is hosting, I think, Kansas and whoever they play for a football game. As like Kansas is, yeah. That game's going to be played at Arrowhead. The weather on Saturday looks like probably rain most of the day in Kansas City, and that field is grass. So that crew, and I think it's an afternoon or a night game, that crew is going to have such a quick turnaround to try to get that field prepped again for a noon kickoff and get NFL players going on that field. So the field might be in a little rough condition come Sunday by kickoff at Arrowhead. Just with, if there's rain and they tear the field up and there's a lot to repair, because you can't resod that field, in less than 24 hours to try to get it prepped. So they just might have to divot fix everything and
not with that attitude.
Hope for the best. Well, I think even with the best NFL crew, I don't think you could do it in that short amount of time. So
probably not.
So I mean, I think it's gonna be a weird, funky game. I'm with you, Zach. I don't think Denver is going to win, just because again, it's the almighty Patrick Mahomes and the almighty Chiefs. But if there's any time for Kansas City to get their first loss against a voodoo magic Denver defense, this might be it.
There you go. I could see it.
So, without Nate, weird first half to your game.
Weird game,
guys.
To that
weird
game,
it was a weird game. I mean, that's what you wouldn't look at it. And you're like, oh yeah, 21-13. Sunday night. I mean,
that was probably regular football that they played.
Yeah, it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't ugly. It was just a game was played.
Like any positive play for either team, like anything that was like, wow, that was a really good football play, was followed up by the dumbest, most out of the world thing you could ever think up in football. So they won the game, I guess. So that's good. But it was an experience to watch. So I think we play the Jags next. And
a game
from
that
what I've been hearing,
Trevor Lawrence might not play in.
Yeah, so it might be the Mac Jones show. So I am
don't say you're scared
for that.
I say, don't say you're scared.
I think Brian Flores is gonna have a fun day on that one.
He's gonna have a field day.
But yeah, my only other note on the NFL is I don't know what we classify as terrorism anymore, but we're sending the Giants and Panthers to Germany.
Yes. No, that's classified as a war crime.
Textbook right there.
I want to apologize to Germany, but I'm not going to because this is what you deserve.
What have they done?
Zach, I don't know how to tell you this.
Before us.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything. What are you talking about?
You're right. I should just believe that Volkswagen started their car company in the 1950s and absolutely did nothing prior to that, right?
Correct. Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
but
besides that war crime of a game.
I am intrigued. I am intrigued by two other games, the Steelers and the Commies. I'm interested to see how Jaden Daniels
plays against
fares against that defense.
TJ Watt might kill him, might not. I don't know yet.
And then in a probably more offensive game, Lions Texans should put up some points, I'd imagine. So
yeah, if Nico Collins is back for CJ, that's obviously going to help tremendously for their offense. They certainly did struggle against the Jets. Now, yes, the Jets defense is still technically kind of good, but you could tell that their offense, when you can't get Joe Mixon all the touches, certainly struggles without. We're just trying to get the ball to Tank Dell now that Diggs is out for the year. Nico Collins does have a chance to play Sunday. It's still questionable at this point. But certainly getting the number one wide receiver in the NFL at that time before he went out back is going to help probably their offensive woes. But I can't tell with the Texans. They're good and then they're not good all at once. It's all encompassing. Like, their record says they're 6-3 and that they're good, but like if you watch any of their games, you're like, I don't really know.
Are we sure? Are we sure?
And that's the thing, is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think with the Texans, I don't know, their offensive line is great, and they have a second-year quarterback who had a lot of success at the end of his rookie season, but I mean, a lot of hype coming into the season and a lot of pressure.
Might be seeing a sophomore slump. Yeah.
Yep.
Probably too much hype, to be honest.
You lose your top two receivers to injuries. There's going to be a regression regardless. So
that sucks. I like Diggs too.
Yeah.
No, Nate did for a season. With that,
touchdown or caught Diggs touchdown.
Sideline touchdown.
Sideline, that's what it is.
There we go.
I knew I was missing something.
All right, college foosball before we get into Nebraska. Obviously, the biggest storyline of last weekend was Ohio State, Penn State, big noon kickoff at Happy Valley.
Insane that they played a top 5 game in Happy Valley
at noon.
At noon
morning. What are we doing?
9 a.m. your time.
What are we doing?
Definitely.
I had so many questions. I had so many questions on that too. I was like, why?
It's called network money. That's what that's called.
I love the idea of big noon kickoff, but like a game like that
deserves to be nighttime.
Happy Valley should definitely be a Saturday night, not a nightcap necessarily, but like should 100% be a Saturday night game.
Yeah, and definitely the question was going to that game is both Ryan Day and James Franklin suck in top 5 matchups, so one of them was going to win one eventually. It definitely does say a lot about James Franklin and Penn State at this point. And we'd be having the same exact conversation if Ryan Day had lost too. But, most teams would be happy that they're a 1-loss, still top 10 team. But I think for Penn State at this point and their program, their fan base, they get to this point every single year, and then you lose to either Ohio State and Michigan or all of the above, and then you're sitting at a 2-loss out of the playoff picture, conference championship picture by that point. So he still can't get over that home. Yeah, I know, right? He still can't get over that point of winning the big games. And Ohio State, I mean, they didn't look impressive, but still enough to win the game. And yeah, I don't know if they're going to challenge Oregon. I don't think any team that comes out to play Oregon in the conference championship game is going to challenge Oregon. I mean, it's Oregon's to lose at this point.
We'll
Who are you thinking?
Well, Indiana.
The team that boat raced us.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I mean, I obviously am buying Indiana. The college football playoff. I guess we talk about that too. The CFP rankings did come out this past week, famously on another Tuesday night that had absolutely no meaning whatsoever for the outlook of our country. Obviously, more people were definitely more in tune to how the college football playoff committee was going to rank Indiana.
I tried.
I mean, I was certainly interested to see how gracious they were going to take into strength of schedule as part of their criteria for the rankings, and certainly there is some degree to it. Some degree.
There were some interesting choices.
There were some interesting choices. Your top, I guess 8 teams right now. I guess all the way to Indiana would be Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, and then Indiana 1 through 8. Your group of 5 leader right now, or just group of 5 would be Boise State. Would get that technically 4th auto bid by as being the highest non-Power 4 team to come right out right now. So if you had the bracket right now, Boise State would be the 4 seed with your 1 seed being Oregon. 2 seed, probably Georgia. 3 seed, I don't know if it's the ACC or big. Probably Miami because they're ACC. Would be your other automatic bid with that. So, yeah, interesting choices for sure. Again, I was very curious to see how high they would rate Indiana, given everything. If you could still argue up to this point of who they've played. It really hasn't been anybody, and I think they have Ohio State. I don't think it's this weekend. It might be next week. Yeah. So that's obviously going to be their toughest challenge. They're a true challenge for them because, again, should have been us. And then Nebraska said, I don't want to play football today.
They didn't. Yeah, no, they didn't. I didn't even think they thought about it that day.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. My big Indiana, I can understand the case against because, like you said, their strength schedule is like in the 140s or something. Not great.
Yeah, I thought it was like 101 or something. It wasn't great.
It might be
regardless. It was in the hundreds.
Digits. Yeah.
It was in the hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah. BYU was the interesting one. They have 2 top 25 wins, and Miami is at number 4.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely at this point. It's definitely like we're early enough into it.
Yeah, it all doesn't necessarily matter.
At this point, well, it's not that it doesn't matter. Like there is an argument to be made, but like at this point, I feel like at least a few of these picks have to be made for the idea of engagement, where it's like, if we put Miami at 4, it's gonna make people. We're doing it right now. We're talking about it. Like, I know we're not the biggest we are the biggest podcast in the world. Don't fact check us.
Thank you.
But Zach. Sorry, I about slipped there.
I don't even have an issue with like Miami being 4 necessarily, but BYU has more top 25 wins than the 4 teams ahead of them in the poll, which is.
Oh, I agree. Well, that's what I'm saying though. Is like it's made for the engagement to get people to talk about it. But I'd still argue that, I understand why Indiana's in that argument because they should be. Mm-hmm. But I think I want to see how they play against Ohio State before I officially lay stake in that to be like, yeah, okay, like they're the real deal.
Right.
But I still maintain I want to see Indiana be really good next year. They're good this year. That's great. I want to see them do it again next year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's going to be their toughest. The toughest thing to overcome is once Cignetti gets rid of all of his players that he brought over that are all
of his super seniors.
All of his super seniors is is he going to go out
or are they actually building a program there?
Right? Is they going to go back into the portal and try to do the same thing again versus traditional recruiting, so on and so forth? So obviously they're enjoying the ride right now. Absolutely. I mean, if that was Nebraska, I absolutely would enjoy the ride right now too. But I think a lot of people are also thinking like, yeah, this is a one-off. Let's see how you do next year. Or is Cignetti really trying to build something here? Or
a bunch of people are thinking he's going to jump ship. Yeah, people are thinking he's going to jump ship after this year and go somewhere else.
Or is it just a resume builder to go to a higher Power 5, Power 4 school? So,
which that would almost be funnier if he jumps from Indiana to a bigger school and then just fails entirely. I think he's full. I think he's a little bit full of himself, but he's obviously proven himself to this point too. So,
I
guess he can back it up.
I think that's just him.
I mean, yes, but I I think there should be some level of humility, but that's just my.
It's probably into boats how they row.
Yeah, exactly. The exact type of person I'm talking about.
Yeah. Speaking, going back to the NFL here real quick. So 38 seconds left. Jamar Chase just, I think, scored his third touchdown tonight. Bengals scored, tried to go for 2, and Cincinnati did not get the 2-point conversion. So it's 35-34. Baltimore's about to get the ball back with 38 seconds left, so it's probably game. Unless Cincinnati can get the onside here. But that was a thriller of a Thursday night game, and I am sorry to all Jamar Chase fantasy people that had to play against him tonight. Chances are he probably had at least 65 total fantasy points, if not a little bit more. And I'm not exaggerating with that. I wish I was.
Do we have the number?
It's got to be close to at least. It's not 60, if not a little bit more, depending on what obviously format you use. I know if you do sleeper, if you do PPR sleeper, he has 63.
Holy cow!
That ain't bad.
That ain't bad.
You may not need to play anybody else the rest of your week. I think you'd still be fine. ESPN PPR about 64. So yeah, roughly 63-64 range fantasy points. So congrats Jamar Chase owners.
No,
not congrats to people that had to play against him. You probably already lost your match, and it's not even Sunday.
Hey, I got 41 points with Joe Burrow, so thank God.
Yeah, Burrow obviously had a good game. Lamar Jackson had a really good game.
I finally had something go right. I can't wait to lose this week anyway, so that's how it goes every time.
So with that, I think we could just get right into whatever happened last Saturday at Memorial Stadium.
Thank God it's a bye week.
Yeah, we don't have to go through fully out of it. Obviously, Nebraska went into that game needing to win, just obviously for the sake of the fan base, sake of everybody else, just to get to 6 wins, get to a bowl game, just finally get the monkey off your back and do that. And they did that thing where they did what they did against Indiana, and they just said, well, we'll maybe show up.
Well, almost, because they did finally show up.
They did in the second half, but it was a little too late at that point.
So I guess I'll just be the one, because everybody else is saying it too. We might as well just go there. It's got to be offensive play calling, right?
Yes, and that's this entire conversation of what we're going to go into is yes, the offense. Defense did not have a good first half. They did pick it up in the second half. They only gave up just the one long touchdown in the second half, but UCLA only ran, I think, 17 or 18 total plays in the second half. So they did pick it up, because I think in that entire first quarter, UCLA ran 21 plays.
Somehow Nebraska did the most Nebraska thing they possibly could against a team that they should have beat, and they made what was his name? What was the quarterback's name for UCLA? Whatever his name was.
Ethan Garbers.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They made him look like a Heisman candidate, and I'm like, how is it that Nebraska can, at a very critical juncture in the season where it's like, hey, we need you to play really well, can make the other team at every facet look like an absolute powerhouse team.
Mm-hmm.
They made UCLA look like a playoff team for most of that game in a lot of places, and it was like. And granted, a lot of it was Nebraska shooting themselves in the foot, it felt like, but it was just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, a lot of those passes were like in the flat over the middle, where, a certain Malcolm Hartzog was probably missed. So
was probably there in that coverage, yes. And credit to UCLA. I mean, they knew that we were going to be playing a couple freshman cornerbacks, knowing that Tommy Hill is still playing, but like he's still hurt. So he wasn't going to play, his full game, and they targeted the freshman cornerbacks, and it's, credit to them. We couldn't stop them, and yeah, obviously a lot of it turned to the offense, and a lot of what Rule said after the game, what Rule said on Monday is, he kind of gave some insight of, yeah, I reached out to some of my friends in the business to kind of come in, take a look at, what we're missing on offense, what we're missing on defense, just to kind of take a look at the program as a whole, just to see what, what we can try to change, what we can do in this bye week, what we can do to try to finish out the season, the next 3 games, so on and so forth. That happened Monday. We found out Tuesday, right and early in the morning, that a certain former Air Raid head coach, offensive coordinator, and a certain defensive coordinator that Rule has coached with one of them, has been really long time friends with another one. Phil Snow, the defensive side coordinator, is going to come in and be an analyst on the defense. Not that the defense needed much help, but it, like he said, it doesn't hurt to have a second set of eyes on analyzing what we can do better on defense, and so on and so forth. But obviously the biggest part of this entire thing is who he brought in for the offensive side. One, Dana Holgerson. And if you don't know any of his stats, I'm going to probably quote them here in just a second. Mastermind. No, not a mastermind. Mike Leach was the mastermind of the Air Raid. But
RIP.
But definitely a second in command. You could say Dana is
he's a proponent of it.
He's a proponent, guru of an air raid type offense. And there's a lot of different avenues you can go with this conversation. You can look at it from the aspect of Nebraska wanting to do something different these next 3 games, possibly changing 2025 outlook. You could look at it at the avenue of Dylan's not playing well, and we know this. He definitely maybe has regressed a little bit. And so you're looking at it as maybe trying to save a face for Dylan, because if I were looking at this through Dylan's eyes, I would be looking at this and saying, what am I doing to try to help myself to get myself to the NFL in a couple years? And certainly if things were not changed, there were probably starting to be some murmurs, some whispers within the Raiola family of, is this really the best place for us to try to develop yourself to get you to the NFL in the next couple of years? And not that I'm saying that like we should all panic and fear, but that's probably certainly a conversation that was going to happen at some point. If things were going to continue the way they were right now with Satterfield with this offense. And so you bring in Dana, and I think the biggest aspect that we all look at it right now is the writings on the wall for Satterfield, and the fact that he's hired as a full-time analyst right now. It's probably going to be a little bit of this week trying to get Dana, looking at everything, what he needs to do, putting in some of his play calling expertise. Next week, doing a lot more of the heavy work. And then I think the end game of this is your future 2025 offensive coordinators are already in the building. I think it's no surprise that we know that Satterfield most likely will not be returning by the end of the season. If he is, I know we talked about this last week, there's probably going to be more question that is raised about Rule than it is about Satterfield. At least I believe that Dana's probably going to be the offensive coordinator next year. This is certainly not something that you wait to do. And there were talks about this after Dylan committed, that like Dana was probably going to join us at some point of the staff. Certainly didn't work out. He spent his time this season at TCU as an analyst. And then Rule gave him a call. He's here. He's on the staff. He's, in Lincoln doing all of this. So a lot of different avenues to look at this. I'll get your guys' opinion here of, what we think about it, what we think what Rule's thinking as the future long-term plan for Dana for this offense, and we'll go from there.
I just have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the tweets that came out from Tuesday, a lot of them were very much worded that Dana joined the staff. Like, that's foregone conclusion, basically.
Yes.
I only saw a couple that said that is it Phil Snow on the defensive side just came in. I didn't see anywhere that was like official that he's joining the staff. Is he just coming in as just like just to help out, just like, hey, I got some time on my hands kind of thing, just to come in and, you know, give his insight? Or did he actually join the staff and it was just never
that
like,
part?
I don't know.
That part I'm not 100% sure. You're right. I haven't seen like the wording.
Again, it could be one of those things where I'm reading too much into it. It could have been they brought him in the sense of he's now part of the staff. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think UCLA was a bad showing for the defense overall, in my opinion. Like they figured it out, but they should have had it figured out to begin with. So net negative. But the point that I'm saying is that, like, there's nothing wrong with bringing another set of eyes, but I don't think the defense is the issue.
No. And albeit from the Indiana, somewhat of the Illinois game, somewhat of the UCLA game, defenses play about as well as we thought they should have played all year.
Defense took a step back, but they aren't the worst defense that they were 2 years ago under Frost either. So.
And I know at the beginning of the season, I knew I was a little bit worried about the secondary. We had some good returning names, but a lot of the experience, and it's still true with the defense right now, is going to be your front 5 to 7 guys in terms of line and linebackers that are going to be your havoc playmakers, and then you had Tommy Hill and Hartzog, and that's it. I mean, Cia Wright has really come on to his own when he's been out there and played. He's definitely been a step up, definitely during that Rutgers game. But yeah, in terms of Phil Snow, I agree. I haven't seen anything that had said like he had joined the staff, other that he was just here.
Whereas at least with Dana, there was 100%
he's on the staff now.
Which that's not, that doesn't really matter. I was just curious if there was anything official on that. My only point is, and I'll keep it short because quite frankly, we've done enough talking about this in our text, which is so weird. We should just save all this stuff for this, but I think we also needed it. But at the same time, my thought is, I'm reserving judgment because we have 3 more games left. USC is going to be tough, but I think Wisconsin and Iowa are still winnable games. And USC, by all accounts, is because they've looked fairly consistent, just like we have. They've just looked better in a lot of other assets where I think they have us outmatched in a couple cases where I think it's going to be tough. But I don't think Nebraska is completely out of the realm in winning that either. Again, though, Nebraska has played so inconsistently. Like, that's why we keep watching, is because it's like we don't know what team's going to show up. In my head, I want to see if these changes, the thing I take from it is that Rule is doing something. He's doing something immediately to be like, yes, I recognize there's a problem here. Whether it works or not, we have to see. But he sees that there's a problem. He's taking action. That's great. I'm reserving my judgment for if Dana does take over as offensive coordinator. I think that'll be good, but we'll see. But that's when it happens. But we have 3 games left. I want to see how these next 3 games go, offensively speaking, at least, to where if we get a 6th win, then it kind of goes back to your point, Andy, it goes back to the point of we got the monkey off of our back. Now at that point we can kind of let the rest of the trajectory take over. It's not going to be the great jump that we thought Rule was going to. I guess it's not impossible. I guess there is a chance we could win out the last 3. There does exist that possibility, which still isn't exactly the same type of jump that Rule would take. But I do think the Big Ten is also a bit different compared to what he was coaching before. But no, I think it's going to be a net positive, but I'm reserving my entire judgment until I see how we play these last 3 games. And I guess if Nebraska responds and plays really good last 3 games, even if they lose all of them, it's like if they play the type of games that they should and they lose on some BS crap at the end where it's like, well, the 1-score stuff, it's like, we've been here before.
caught up in the
deflection.
Yeah, or yes, exactly. The type of play that has never really gone Nebraska's way, except for apparently Colorado this year for us. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to be happy if we go 5-7, and I won't. But there is a limit to where it's like, I don't know. It's hard to say because I think there is a chance somehow that Nebraska could show up these next 3 games, and well, I guess we don't play till next week, but there is somehow a weird chance that they could show up these next 3 games and surprise the world, which would be great. But I'm reserving my entire judgment to see how they play against USC. So
and
don't really have much to.
I do agree with that too. My reaction of like how I felt Saturday versus how I feel now is completely. It's not different, but it is changed based on what happened Tuesday, in terms of the Dana Holgorsen hiring, quote unquote hiring. It's definitely if we hadn't done anything this week and we're still sitting here with that loss on Saturday, and Rule had said like he talked about making some changes, but really hadn't done anything, I would definitely be a little bit more pessimistic, more bleak about the next 3 games. And I'm not saying that, we're going to come out not against USC and be this high flying air raid offense now. Because obviously you still have problems with the receiver group. You still have problems with the running backs. You still have some issues with the line. They're not huge issues with the line, but some of the run blocking schemes for the running backs is not great. Obviously, the perimeter blocking by our receivers that's still not great. So, like, you still have all those problems that exist, and just fixing an offensive coordinator is not going to change the entirety of the offense. But he is going to add some insight, just some. We got to be creative, better creative of play calling, and just hopefully having his mindset in there is going to be a little bit of pressure for Dylan too, because like I said, Dylan has not played great ever since probably the second half of Illinois. He had somewhat the better second half against Purdue, but outside of that, it's been almost not a regression, but it's been a little regressed since those games happened. So hopefully just having him in there can just get a fresh set of eyes. Hopefully he can work with Glenn Thomas, try to fix some mechanics, do everything, and so on and so forth. But that's why I believe he's gonna. I think he's going to be the offensive coordinator next year. It's asinine to say that Rula keeps Satterfield. You can't keep him for next year. If you want to keep Dylan on this team, if you want to have any sort of chance of keeping the fan base, keeping the trust of the fan base with you, you have to change Satterfield. And among other coaches, he's not the only one that we've all agreed that should not be on the staff next year. He's just one of them. But I think that's why you bring in somebody like Dana. You don't bring in somebody of that resume like his. And I know I sent you guys that tweet and that picture of one of the guys that I listened to that kind of did all the stats of all the numbers that he's done at other places versus what Nebraska's doing this year. All of the numbers for Nebraska this year, whether it's points per game, yards per play, yards per rush, yards per pass, so on and so forth, Dana has never had any of those worst numbers in his entire coaching career that what Nebraska's doing right now. Nebraska's currently 22.3 points per game. Dana's never averaged that ever in his coaching tenure ever.
Wasn't his lowest like 30 or like 29 or something?
25.
25.
So,
okay,
and that was like that was a year where he got fired that year type thing. So it wasn't in the middle, like a giant middle, progression or whatever, but all of the numbers Nebraska's offense is currently doing right now, Dana's never had numbers like that ever in his coaching career. They've all been better than that. So it's you look at it from that standpoint, it's his resume checks out because he's never had as bad of a year that Nebraska's having.
So you're telling me all we had to do was just cross the bar that's damn near the low.
Yeah, the bottom.
The floor. Okay. Cool.
Obviously, his best years were just when he was strictly an offensive coordinator. He had some good years when he was doing OC and head coaching duties, but in terms of just what his best numbers were, top 5 in the NCAA in terms of points per game, yards, so on and so forth. When he was just offensive coordinating, whether it was at Houston, Oklahoma State, before he took the head coaching job at West Virginia. So it's a positivity that, like, if he can just get it going, if he is, well, I keep saying if he is, I think he's going to be the next offensive coordinator next year. But if you can just get any sort of momentum change, just some creativity, just some different looks in the offense, even just in the next 3 games with just his insight and his help, and just to help Dylan. I mean, all of this is being done to, 1, win that 6th game, and 2, get your confidence back to Dylan, get your confidence back to the team, get confidence back to his family, saying, like, yes, this is the place you need to be, that you're going to get ready for the NFL, is because you're on this team, you're on this coaching staff, and so on and so forth. And that, I mean, the Raiola family is very tight. If you had saw that when Dylan got hurt against UCLA, the 2 coaches that were out there, one was Rule and one was Uncle Donnie, was the other coach that was out there. You would rarely ever see your offensive line coach go out for any other guy out there. But the fact that obviously it was his uncle out there just shows you just like how tight-knit that family is. And Rule's probably going to do everything in his power to keep him happy, keep that family happy, keep Dylan here playing, so on and so forth. And I think this is one of the moves that I think you had to make. You know, it's obviously not firing Satterfield right now, but it's probably just a little coaching job prep interview for Dana next year once we let Satterfield go in the offseason. So, Nate, your opinions.
I mean, I would like to go back to the season preview where
was Satterfield
everyone else said we didn't need to launch anyone into the sun to start the season. I would like to take that victory for just a moment. Yeah, I mean, Satterfield's been just interesting play calling since last year, and I understand the idea and the hope that it would change where he's not taking on the same workload that he had last year. But
right. And I think that's why we all gave him a break last year, is obviously he didn't want to run an option offense, and Nebraska, albeit, you know, obviously struggled on offense last year. You could almost say that last year's offense at least was a little bit more competent than they are right now, because at least we knew what they were last year, and they did it pretty darn well, at least in terms of running the ball.
Yeah.
But then again, you had Heinrich doing that. But
he, I don't know. Even last year, he consistently was putting the players not in positions to make winning plays. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, not his biggest supporter here. Hope life goes well for him after this, but
not to be a coach here.
Yeah. Hasn't worked out, and that is how the business goes sometimes. I don't know if pushback's the right term on this, but I will provide a different view on the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I think Holgorsen has a good chance to become the OC. I wouldn't completely rule out Glenn Thomas
either. I mean,
for that, I think it'll be a different person than Satterfield, regardless.
Yes.
But I wouldn't just completely give it to Holgorsen just yet.
Mm-hmm.
I like the move. Like you guys said, it's making a change and making a move without necessarily, blowing everything up in the middle of the season.
It's also at least a response. And I know I had said that earlier, but how many times in the past have we seen in the past where a coach doesn't make a move and they're just like, oh, we're gonna figure it out, and then they just don't do anything, and it's like, well, it never got figured out. Well, yeah, definition of insanity is doing the same thing, hoping different results.
Right.
At least we're seeing a different response where it's like, now, okay, we're trying something. It may not work out, but it's at least something different.
Yep. I'll refine my take, Nate. I'll just say that the next offensive coordinator is already in the building.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll leave it at that.
Yep, I was going to agree with that. Yep. So I think either one would be a step up. I guess I don't know intimately what Glenn Thomas's track record is, but
I know
he's worked with Mahomes, and that
yes,
he's
Dana.
all right.
I think Dana's most successful ones, if I remember correctly, are Geno Smith and Case Keenum, which obviously,
Heisman winner Case.
Yes, Heisman winner Case Keenum. Obviously, it's not like blow the doors off like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes type names, but I mean that's still two pretty. I mean, obviously, one's still a very starting quarterback right now for the Seattle Seahawks, and Case has been a good starter depending on the team he's played for.
Yeah, I mean they're both quarterbacks with big arms, and Dylan is a quarterback with a big arm.
With a big arm.
Which leads into the other points of Dylan hasn't looked as great, and I am willing to chalk that up to freshman mistakes and not having an offensive line that protects him, which was, I feel, if I didn't explicitly say it in our season preview, I was thinking that my biggest concern going into the season was keeping Dylan upright. And
I think I remember you
not done a great job of that the past few weeks, and then I mean, I will still say the funniest thing was we don't cheer for injuries or Dylan getting injured and then running back into the huddle and getting injured again. That was the most nasty injury I've ever seen. Not a
try to get back out there.
Not anything overly athletic by any means. Just running out to get into the huddle. Nope. That's definition of a Nebraska ability, I believe, is what.
Yeah,
he tried, man.
And
I guess for Glenn Thomas, going back to Glenn Thomas, he did coach Matt Ryan, so.
Well, it wasn't a bad thing.
Matty Ice. Right. Matty Ice is what
I still chalk up that. I don't know what it is in the last few games, and I think it goes to the freshman mistakes thing, and the offensive line hasn't fully helped him either. But there's just been a couple times where it's like, even when he does have a bit of time, sometimes he just makes some weird throws. It's like, dude, what? You were making this 3 games ago. Yeah. I'm not, or there's a couple times where his decision making just looks slow. And he's a freshman. I'm not expecting him to be. I'm not expecting a Patrick Mahomes level here yet by any means, but it's just not all of them. I'm not saying all plays. I'm just saying there were a couple, even in the UCLA game, where when it wasn't chalked up to offensive line or a freshman mistake, it was just something just seems off. I'm just wondering if he's playing he's slightly hurt, and I guess he could have been at that point too. So,
well, he is now.
He is now.
There's some validity to the strength of schedule early in the season.
Yes.
Colorado doesn't really have a defense, let's be honest.
No,
but they have looked better. So
they have better. They're ranked. It's not a ranked win for Nebraska, but
the issue is typically getting into Big Ten play and just facing more consistent teams and a lot of coaches that know how to scheme against players, regardless of if they're freshmen or 8th year seniors, or whatever. There's a lot of just smart coaching stuff in the Big Ten. That's what the Big Ten is, and
I think the most damning thing
competition.
I think the most damning thing about UCLA is that it's just a first-time head coach and new to the league, or not league, sorry, new to the conference. So it's
I will push back on. It's fun to just call UCLA trash, but their losses are against Indiana, who is top 10, LSU, who is in the top 15, Oregon, who is number 1, Penn State, who is in the top 10, and Minnesota, who should be in the top 25.
Yeah, they have kind of had a rough schedule.
They've won their 3 other games. They haven't been pretty games, but they have won their 3 other games.
Yeah.
So
they might not be as bad.
They're 3 and 5, but those 5 losses aren't necessarily against St. Mary's School for the deaf, blind, and don't know what a football is or something.
Something up that alley.
No, that's fair. I don't know. It's one of those where I think there's just a lot still that just needs fixed, and the problem is, it's not like a simple thing as we thought it might have been last year, where it's we don't have a true quarterback, and it's not that we didn't have it's not even that we didn't have a quarterback. It's that we just didn't have a quarterback that seemed we were talking last year where it's like, if we had an average quarterback, we probably would have won 6 games, or even to the level of like, if we started Chuba last year earlier, or if we started Heinrich earlier, we probably would have won 6 games. Right. All of that can still be true. Well, now we have Dylan. Something else just seems like there might be a deeper issue here, which again could be the offensive line or whatever. It's not, this is just showing that it's a complex thing that it's just really, it's starting to bite me personally, where you have, and I know Kurt Signetti at Indiana is not the greatest example because he brought a lot of players from James Madison. And then you have the guy from UCLA. I kept getting him and Eric Bieniemy mixed up because I thought Eric Bieniemy was the head coach for some reason.
No, Deshaun Foster.
That's his name. And so it's like, we've lost to 2, or is it 3 first-time head coaches now, and it's just like, it's just I know for sure those 2, and it's just like, why does this keep happening? But sometimes it's
the growing pains of a rebuild.
And that's the other thing that I have to remember is that we're not for the short-term gain. We're for the long-term, the real long-term rebuild of, we are building a new foundation and stuff like that.
For everything it's worth, like the only game we haven't really been in is Indiana.
Yeah.
If we would have played anywhere,
the game at number 4 Ohio State, so like
that's the
last year's team. You can't. I don't think you can make that case.
That's what kills me. Is it's tough because they're so inconsistent, but we've seen where the team can be, where they almost beat Ohio State. It's like, why can't you do that against UCLA? And I don't know if it's a mentality thing. You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder if it's like the players. At a certain point, we can blame the coaches all we want, but at a certain point, the players have to go play too. And Rule said the same thing. And I just wonder if they were playing for, the name on the jersey, where it's like against Ohio State, like, oh, we got to show up today. I don't think that's the case, but I do wonder. But
and I mean,
we're never going to know.
Like, I feel like they're at the point where there's a lot of pressure because they got the 5 wins, and then everyone's like, oh, we're getting a bowl game and like 20 wins, and we might sneak into the playoff. And the expectation going into the season is like, hey, if we make a bowl game, we'll be happy. And
I
don't know. It feels like we're shifting the goalposts a lot.
And well, for Nebraska fans are known for that.
yeah. But like it is a high ceiling team, and we've seen it against like Ohio State and Colorado, where like they're playing their best football. It looks really good, but they're a young enough team and a team that just hasn't won a lot in the past 10 years that the floor is a lot lower. So there is unfortunately a lot of variability in between, and for better or worse, that is why I am still hopeful that we have a chance to at least get to 6 wins, because they are so wildly inconsistent that any given Saturday they could show up. And I would actually push back on the last 3 games. I think USC and Wisconsin are the best chances. I don't love what I'm about to say, but Iowa looks like a not bad at football team.
The issue is like Caleb Johnson is just their offense right now. McNamara has showed up when he needs to, but like they're letting Caleb Johnson run, and teams are like,
and he's doing it.
He's doing it.
And we'll get into that in a few weeks when we're getting into the Iowa game. But
yes,
the saving grace, at least for that, is that our run defense is pretty stout. So
I think we'll match up defensively well against Iowa, and that's why I'm saying like I do think we have a chance in our last 3 games to pull something out of our ass. I just the optimism, thankfully, between at least 3 of us has come up a little bit. But if you would have asked us Saturday afternoon or evening, like no chance.
I
was beating the optimism drum still.
Yeah, the whole Dana news on Tuesday for me kind of shifted.
Unless I was talking about Satterfield. But.
Well, yeah, that obviously,
I do still think it's just like what we've seen this week for response has been. We don't know if it's going to pay off. It's just the fact that there is a response. Is that Matt Rule went out and said, "I want you to join my staff," and then assumedly Snow did, or at least came in for analyst type stuff. Whether it was just one day, week, whatever. Great, like we're doing something finally. Thank God.
I mean, Actions speak louder than words. Under Frost, it would have been, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and then they never did.
They're doing something about it. They're saying they're going to figure it out, and they're at least making an effort to. So
it just, as long as the offense just looks, I mean, it's my whole thing. Yeah, everything better. My whole thing this year has been like, I know they've wanted to make the offense like simple for Dylan, let him get used to the, college football aspect and everything. But as the season has gone on, they've looked predictable in terms of what they've run. So like when they go up into sets, like there's no motion, Dylan only looks one way, hasn't really progressed through so many of his routes. I mean, he has done some throws, but there's no motion, there's no changing the play type thing. And yes, it's been good to help Dylan get used to the game. But at some point, teams pick up on that and like, oh, they're in this set. They usually run this type of play. We're going to be ready for it. They're not going to call an audible out of it. And it's been really apparent, especially on like third and long situations where they know our receivers suck in man coverage. So they just send the house and say, yeah, good luck. We'll send 6, 7 guys, and we don't really do a whole lot of hot routes to try to get the ball out quick. We just hang on to the ball and just let Dylan fend for his life. So
I will put my haterade cap back on, but wouldn't shock me if Satterfield did not know more than 10 plays.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping we see some sort of change on Saturday is we see more like situational play calling like that to where like, oh, we know it's a third and long, they're coming after us. So let's try a hot route. Let's try some sort of quick pass where Dylan steps X 1, 2, 3 out. And that's what UCLA was doing it to us too. I mean, their play calls, they didn't let our line create any havoc. They took our line completely out of the game with, their quick passes, out routes, so on and so forth. So even if it's a dink and dunk your way down the field and you don't get the big plays that we know Dylan can hit, it might be effective enough just to move the ball on the offense. So if we
just don't understand why we don't do that to begin with. Like,
look at our play callers. That's why.
I mean, I understand that. I'm just saying there's
his version of a quick pass is a screen.
It's and the screen can work, but we don't have the guys, I don't think, equipped to do it. But Miles, it goes. I keep going back to the keep it simple, stupid thing. I'm not saying
which
Satterfield makes more money than me doing what he does. So
and they have protected Dylan a lot. I'm not saying that they have it because obviously there's not a whole lot of QB designed run plays for that exact reason. And Dylan has gotten better in that aspect of knowing when to take off and try to pick up yards, play it safe. So on. I mean, especially during Ohio State, but. Yeah, as long as there's some sort of change on the offense by next Saturday, and I'm not expecting them to come out and be all air raid. And if they are, then we definitely know that there's a change in play calling right then and there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they have to look just any sort of different of what they're doing right now, because what they're doing right now is obviously not working. And it could have happened in the second half against UCLA. They just got behind the 8 ball too early for them to dig themselves out. By the end of the game. So obviously the pick 6 right out of half definitely doesn't help.
Yeah. But it was encouraging that they actually fought back.
Yes.
Even though they weren't able to finish it.
Yeah. They dug too big of a hole.
The team did at least respond in a way that it's like, okay, I still think the team is different in a way that's like, okay. They didn't just roll over. Indiana is the only exception to this, where they
got behind early and definitely did not come back.
But like UCLA, they were down. They were definitely getting outcoached and beat in the first half, and they came back and they said, "Okay, well, we're tired of this." And arguably, they almost did come back and at least almost tied it up, but it didn't happen. But yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll have all of next week to talk about it too, to see what comes out of it. So.
And I don't think Rule's set to speak the rest until probably Monday again. So be interested to see what he says Monday with, Dana in-house for almost the whole week and, see what he says about that, what questions he gets asked about it on Monday in terms of prepping for USC and, what kind of role that Dana's had over the bye week and getting the team ready for USC. With that, though, picks.
Well, hold on. We got one more.
Oh,
but we're all
okay.
we're all going to agree.
That.
We are gonna agree on it. But this one, I think, is all fair that we agree. It's got to be Satterfield. So.
Yeah, Satterfield's been tied to that ship all year. We're
preseason.
Yeah,
since last year.
Actually, I think this one is arguably 100% fair. Because like we were all going to say the same thing a couple episodes with Jet, and then I said, well, we got to have another. We got to throw another one. That's unfair. This one, it's like no, like that's what we're going with. But I think we're seeing it with Dana Holgerson coming in. So
yes.
Anyway, now let's go to picks.
Our picks. I have both of my picks locked and loaded. If we're
all right, well,
we're ready to go.
I was going to say, go ahead with your what are we calling them now? Sports
bold and sports sick pick.
Yeah, all right.
My sports bold pick, I'm taking a page out of what Nate did last week. I do think this time Denver covers Kansas City.
Nice.
Because they're not playing Lamar Jackson. You're still playing Patrick Mahomes, but you're not playing Lamar Jackson.
Hey, it worked for me with my pick. It
and I think Denver probably learned its lesson this time after what happened last week. Whatever we set, that was 8 or 9 points. Somewhere
8 according to ESPN right now.
But whatever the spread is by Sunday, I'm just going to say Denver covers whatever that number is. Unless it becomes like +6 and the money comes heavy in on Denver by Sunday, then I might be a little worried.
It will after people listen to the podcast.
Yes, obviously.
Number one sports podcast. Don't fact check us.
Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Disclaimer: we are not professionals, but if you do, call 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a problem. My sports sick pick, and I really love this pick, and I'm gonna get fried one way or another, which way this goes. Kennesaw State at UTEP.
Oh,
1-7 Kennesaw State at 1-8 UTEP. Right now, UTEP is favored by 3.5.
Hold on, that's not a sick pick. That's just a straight up sicko game pick. Like watch this because this could straight up be a game that they score 6-3.
Kennesaw State will win.
Oh,
they finally just won their first game in what?
Did.
They're gonna come off. They're gonna be coming off of a high. So
what had it been like? Several years since they'd won a game or something like that? No, I'm thinking of a soccer team. Regardless,
close enough.
That's almost worse.
Yeah, close enough. Teams that are combined 2-15, 2-16.
Holy cow!
I will say wrong team is favored. Kennesaw State covers +3.5.
Good pick. Nate, I'll give it to you. I'm still looking at a couple of mine.
All right. I think I don't know how bold of a pick it is, but Oklahoma is favored -3 at Missouri, and I think that Missouri does not lose that game.
The only interesting tad bit about this is that Oklahoma did fire their OC. So I don't know how much that changes.
I'm not changing
that. I'm just saying Oklahoma might be different on offense.
I don't know that that's necessarily going to be better.
It is wild to me that OU is favored in that game, according to this. Like, what?
That's why I don't know if it's a bold pick, but seems like an easy money pick to me.
I mean, yeah.
But
I don't hate it.
I mean, I went 0-2 last week, so I take that.
Got to change, right?
All of our picks. All of our picks are bold
shaker
picks
assault.
at this point. All of our picks are bold.
Some of us are on a hot streak, Zach. You and I are.
We're not.
And my other pick is going to be the hammer the over on the Bills, -4 against the Colts. I think they're going to score points, and I don't think Joe Flacco is going to have a great time.
All right, I guess that leaves me. I'm going to go completely different from you guys. You guys both want football. I'm not doing that. My sports bold pick, though, is going to be hockey betting is interesting because there's not like a cover because can be 1 point or 5 point game. I'm guessing there's probably not but the over under for Pittsburgh and Washington is 6.5, and like both of those teams like can score pretty good. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be an over game. I'm gonna take the over 6.5. I think there's gonna be a higher scoring game than 6.5 points. So that's gonna be my pick for that. And that actually will happen after this comes out. So that's 6:30 tomorrow. So those that are listening,
get your picks in.
Picks in on that. But my bold pick is actually going to be, or my sports bold is actually going to be. I was just looking at it. Where'd it go? I'm between two of them, but the one that I like, and Nate might dislike this one.
Oh no.
The Wolves are favored 11.5 points over Portland, and I get it, but I
think Portland's going to cover.
No, yeah, I think they're going to cover. I think Minnesota wins, but it's going to be one of those weird games where Minnesota, not that they play bad. I think Portland's just going to play out of their butt, and it's going to be like, what? Where did this come from? And it's 11.5 points in a basketball game in the NBA, I think is just a lot, unless you're Boston against Brooklyn, which was my other one. I was like, 13.5 points is a lot, but Boston looks really, really good. Where the Wolves do look good, but you even said
I don't love the implications of it, but like Portland's also a feisty team, and they play the same team 3 times in 5 days. So like,
exactly, and it's one of those things where it's like their first meeting where Portland's going to really, really play, I think, and then the next 2 games they could drop. I think this is the one where it's like 11.5 seems a little high for that first meeting. Not because I don't think Minnesota is going to win, and I don't think that they are going to play poorly. I think Portland's just going to have one of those weird games where it's like, whoa, like everything's hitting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. There's just a feeling. There's something with that game where I'm like, nah, I don't know. I'm feeling that. So that's my bold pick. Right. So I do hope the Wolves win. I'd like to point that out.
Yes.
But I'm just saying. I don't know. I think Portland, even if it's 10 points, I'm like, hey, that bet would win. So
right. All right. With that, everybody enjoy the bye week. Nebraska can't hurt you on Saturday.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was my one other pick. I think Nebraska wins the bye week.
Wins the bye week. Okay.
Yep.
Let's hope. Let's go put some money on it.
I like how
surely can't lose that. Yeah.
No, you started with let's hope, and then we surely can't lose that. You went from potential to this is for sure.
No, this is
I don't know if that's how that works, but okay. I'll give it to you.
Yes. Men's basketball plays Saturday night against Bethune-Cookman. Volleyball also plays Saturday at Washington. I'm not 100% sure what time without looking that up as well. Women's basketball, they did start 1-0. They kicked the crap out of UNO, 88-48 this past Monday. So they also play Saturday. Number 23 ranked women's basketball team for Nebraska. So they're going to be on a good pace this year as well. They play Southeastern Louisiana at 1:00 on Saturday.
It was Southern.
No. Zach, they play Southern on Tuesday. By all coincidence.
Just like that, the podcast has come full circle.
Southern. Welcome back to Southern Ball.
If you're missing your fill of Nebraska football, I've got basketball and volleyball this weekend for you to watch on Saturday. And then obviously we have our slate of NFL games on Sunday. With that, wish everybody a happy bye week. We'll be back next week. Give us our USC preview in terms of what's happening with that. Obviously, yes, Scourge by 90. And we will put a link in our description for our Patreon for our MLB and basketball teams now that we are needing to buy so that Zach can eat some food.
It's on the Patreon. It's the scavenger hunt. They got to find us.
Yes. Yes. You'll just
let us know what you do, though. Let us know what you do.
Yes, the link will only pop up to say, please help us find our actual Patreon link. Here's the scavenger hunt.
Please feed Zach.
Yes, it's a link to find the actual link to said donation box. So with that, I'm Andy. That is Nate and Zach. We are your source for sports.